4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
He is my refuge and my fortress, protects me from the wicked, deadly ordinance. Snakes master psychology, phony people studying fakeology. Y'all see, I'm a God, it's not ego. Psalms 82 verse 6. Even JC know who be me. Lion face crew be deep. Soldiers for y'all, screw these streets in front like the heat goat. That's how I leap, waiting on the master. In the meantime, studying for my masters, building houses, growing college, sharpen my sword, and I'm cutting up scholars, raising my sons, searching for the wife. Yah, I pray he find a virtuous one, stand for justice, relieve the oppressed. Call on Yah, deliver the fatherless, let Israel be blessed.
Keeping my eyes on Yah, I won't let up. I'm strong and bold, I won't give up. When I fall, he came and saved me. The righteous fall, don't let up. Every time we gon' get up. When I call, he came and saved me.
Yo, when the poor oppress the poor, it's like the sweeping rain, leaving no food, just pain. But Yah's name I exclaim, feed my brethren wisdom. Yah willing, he will do the same. Shame and calamity on my family, trapped in captivity. Many years ago, holding the calico, never know how my light glow till I step through them two doors. Left church, cause that was just fool's gold. My eyes the color of onyx, Yah's message came to me as clear as you telephonically alerting me. He opened the scrolls and fed his word to me. Now I must give to those hope lost whose spirit is froze. The knowledge of how they conquer their foes. Enemies be hatred of self. Something dangerous like this crack is wealth. Let's leave Babylon and let Yah be our help.
Keeping my eyes on Yah, I won't let up. I'm strong and bold, I won't give up. When I fall, he came and saved me. The righteous fall, don't let up. Every time we gon' get up. When I call, he came and saved me.
Shalom. Shalom. Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise and honor to the Holy One of Israel, to the Creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is, by saying, Hallelujah. Praise the mighty Yah. Yah is righteous. Yah is holy. And let Yahweh be magnified. Once again, the Creator has brought us through another week, even this second day of the week, bringing to you another beautiful program of nothing but the truth. And we've been having a little technical difficulties with our microphones. We got them fixed. So we're going to try to get right into our subject matter so that we can get right to the chase, the point. But I want to praise the mighty Yah once again for allowing us to come before you this day, this night. Who is this great Yah? Yah is the creator of the heaven, the earth, the sea, and all that is therein is. Yah is the Elohim of our fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, and YIsraEL, whom you may know as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yah is our king, he's our judge, he's our lawgiver, and Yah is our only savior, and not just of Israel. Yah is the savior of the world. And I praise the mighty Yah for allowing us to bring to you another program of nothing but the truth. Yeah, my name is Mowreh IshYAH YIsraEL of the House of Israel, located right here in Cincinnati, Ohio, 1907 Vine Street. Tonight's program will be on the Judgement of 20. I repeat, the Judgement of 20. A couple weeks ago, I gave our people 7 of the most important numbers in the scriptures. And one of those numbers that I had given, the 7 numbers again, are 7, 10, 12, 20, 40, 49, and 50. And tonight we're going to discuss the Judgment of 20. 20 is in the 4th order or the 4th position, which is the 4th most important number that I've seen in the scriptures. But little do people know this 20 is very relevant. is relevant because this is what you're going to find. Right now, as I speak, the world is celebrating their new year. In other parts of the country, Paris and Greece and other places, they've already announced and proclaimed the new year. And of course, in a few hours, here in America, they will be proclaiming their new year. And of course, Israel, all those whose eyes is open of the Israelite community know that this is not the new year that the Creator gave us. Not in January, not at night, not in the middle of the winter, none of these things. But little do people know, this new year still have a relationship with our new year. The Creator said, He ruleth in the kingdom of men, and give it to whomsoever He so will. And He set up over the kingdoms the bases of men. So even though you have base men ruling these kingdoms, they still ruled by the Most High. And so this is what you're going to find. Even though January is their beginning of the year, the first of their year is still in relationship to our new year, which is their fourth month, in the month of April or at the end of March. The only reason you have some deviations because they have these fictitious days in a month. Some months have 31 days like January, and like March, like April. 28 days or 30 days in April, but 28 days in February. So that kind of throws things a little bit off. But their fourth month typically is the beginning of our year. And you're going to see why. And you're going to understand the judgment of 20. That's what we're going to discuss. And I'm going to try to go through this so you can understand what this all means to you and I. The first thing you want to know concerning years, this is what the Creator said in the book of Genesis, the very first chapter. And I'm going to start reading at the 14th verse. And this is what it says. Genesis 1:14. And Elohim said, Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of heaven, to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And Elohim set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And this is what you're going to find, that all our seasons, all our years, all our months, all the days of the months, as well as the days of the year, all began on the fourth day. And I get people asking me all the time, well, when y'all month start, how you know the beginning of a month? Well, the way you know the beginning of the month is how you know the beginning of all months, every month. The way you know the beginning of a year is that you have to know all the years. And how did Yahweh tell us to number our years? Because once you learn how to number your years, you're going to know how to number your months, as well as the days of the month and the days of the year. And this all began on the fourth day. And you're going to see the relevance of this fourth. Just like in the heathen calendars, even though their first month is January, but their fourth month is the first of our year. And you're going to see this relationship between the fourth and the first throughout all the scriptures and in Babylon with the calendars of the heathens. Here it is, our first year, our first season, even our first month, all began on the fourth day. This is an undeniable truth, because you see it right here in Genesis, the first chapter. And how do we number our years? Watch what the Creator lets us know in the book of Leviticus, the 25th chapter. And yes, we're talking about the judgment of 20, but you'll never understand the judgment of 20 if you don't understand this basic fundamental truth. That our first started on the fourth. And look at the heathen calendar. Their fourth month is the beginning of our year. And why? You're going to understand that. And watch what it says in the book of Leviticus, the 25th chapter. And I'm going to read, because these scriptures I'm trying to get right to the point. So you're going to have to pay close attention, and you're going to have to put on your thinking caps. And watch what it says in Leviticus, the 25th chapter. And I'm going to start reading at the 8th verse. And you shall number 7 Sabbaths of years unto you. And what is that telling us? In other words, every 7 years we were to number. And when did these 7 years begin? Well, on the fourth day. When did these months of these 7 years begin? On the fourth day. And when did the days of these months, the days of these years begin? On the fourth day. We were to number 7 Sabbaths of years. 7 times 7 years. And the space of the 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto you 49 years. Then you shall cause the trumpet of Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. And you shall hallow the 50th year, proclaim liberty throughout all the land to all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man to his possession, and you shall return every man to his family. This is why we're going to talk about 50 also. That's one of the 7 most important numbers in the scriptures. It's 7 because it represents our freedom. And in order for you to understand this language that I'm speaking about, you must understand judgment. Oftentimes we see all these dates and times and numbers in the scriptures, and we ignore them, not realizing they are the word of Yahweh. And watch what Yahweh say to us concerning these times. In the book of Jeremiah, the 8th chapter, and I've been showing people this scripture because I want it engraved in your mind. And this is what it says in Jeremiah, the 8th chapter. And then you're going to understand what I mean. And how Yahweh will use not only the fourth as a sign of his beginning, but a sign of his first year, of the very first month, of the very first season, and a sign of one. Watch this in Jeremiah, the 8th chapter. And then once we begin getting into this, then you're going to see the relationship that the fourth has with 20. Jeremiah, the 8th chapter, the 7th verse. It says, yes, the stork in the heaven knows her appointed times, her set times. And the turtle, and the crane, and the swallow observe the time of their coming, because this is about time. But my people know not the judgment of Yahweh. And the reason why my people don't know the judgment of Yahweh is because my people don't know time. And we need to know time. Here it is. We got brothers and sisters going around talking about the 400 years captivity of our people, the vision of Abraham, the great horror he's seen. This thing has already been fulfilled. This thing has already passed. There is no 400-year prophecy today because it was fulfilled in Egypt. And the scriptures condemn everybody who think that way. And definitely condemn everybody who would teach such a thing. And this whole week, we will condemn that whole doctrine because it's not the doctrine of truth. Yahweh wants you to know exactly when our people should be leaving here. Because Yahweh will show you when our people came in here. You think Yahweh as great as deliverance he's talking about having by recovering our people from the four corners of the earth, that he's not going to let you know when? Especially when Yahweh said, according to his word, surely. And what do the word surely mean? That means it's established. You better believe it. It means this is a fact. Surely Yahweh will do nothing but what he first revealed unto his servants, the prophet. So Yahweh is not going to do nothing until he let us know what's happening. And once he let us know what's happening, then he will perform the very thing that he has prophesied will be done. How do you say we are wise and the law of Yahweh is with us? How can you say that and you don't even know judgment and you don't know time? Lo, certainly in vain may he. The pen of the scribes is in vain. And that's what Yahweh didn't say what he wrote is in vain. He said it might as well be in vain because the very words that he has written, we have rejected it. We don't adhere to it. And we don't believe it. It is Yahweh who said on the fourth day, he made the sun, the moon, and the stars. On the fourth day, he said it will be for signs, seasons, days, and years. Yahweh said that, not us. And since he thought and desired to have that on the fourth, who am I to say that the first season, the first year, and the first month is predicated on the moon. No. The moon was made on this day. The sun was made on a day. The stars was made on a day. They even have an age of themselves because we know what day they were made. So even they have an age just like we do. And watch what the Creator said about this force so you can understand this whole thing. The first place I want you to go so you can see this whole thing. Watch this in the book of Leviticus, the 19th chapter. And for some of you all, this might be like a warm-up because you already know these truths. In the book of Leviticus, the 19th chapter, and watch this. And we're talking about the judgment of 20. But before you can understand the judgment of 20, these certain facts you got to know first. In the book of Leviticus, the 19th chapter, watch this in the 23rd verse. And I want you to see the relationship what Yahweh will use as a sign as the first. The first what? The first season, the first year, the first month, the first period. This is a sign of the first. Watch this. In the book of Leviticus 19, verse 23, and when you shall come into the land, you in the land now, and shall have planted all manner of trees for food, then you shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised. 3 years shall it be as uncircumcised unto you. It shall not be eaten of. In other words, leave it alone. It's uncircumcised. The only thing you can count it as uncircumcised. But watch the 24th verse. But in the 4th year, all the fruit thereof shall be holy, to praise Yahweh therewith. Now, why in the 4th year? Because in the 4th year, this is the year of Yahweh's praise. This is the first year, the first season, the first month, the first time where Yahweh is saying, look, now you can praise me with your fruit. And then watch the 25th verse. And in the 5th year, you shall eat the fruit thereof, that it may yield to you the increase thereof. I am Yahweh your Elohim. So, as I was telling you before, the 4th is the sign where we were able to bring Yahweh some fruit to praise him therewith. We couldn't do it the first year, the 2nd year, the 3rd year. We had to do it the 4th year. The very first time we're able to even bring Yahweh something to praise him, because this was the year of his praise. This was the time of his praise. And not only us bringing our fruit, but you already read in Genesis, the 1st chapter, that when the Most High even desired to bring about his first season, what day was that on? The 4th, not the 1st day, not the 2nd day, not the 3rd day, but on the 4th day. When Yahweh thought to bring about his first year, it wasn't the first 3 days. It was the 4th day. And when Yahweh thought to bring about his very first month, what day was it on? The 4th day. That's when he made the sun, moon, and stars. And as a result of Yahweh doing that, watch what Yahweh says in the book of Psalms 113. And we just read where when our people wanted to bring Yah this offering of the fruit, he said, bring it in the 4th year to praise him. Well, what if they just wanted to praise Yah, period, in general? Well, Psalms 113 is going to let you know exactly when that is. And watch what it says in Psalms 113. The very first verse says, praise you, Yah. Praise, O you servants of Yahweh. Praise the name of Yahweh. Blessed be the name of Yahweh from this time forth and forevermore. And watch this third verse. From the rising of the sun and to the going down of the same, Yahweh's name is to be what? Praised. And when do you think that was? First of all, the sun wasn't even made to the 4th day. So how could you even praise Yahweh's name before that 4th day? So you know Yahweh's first praise had to take place then. Because not only we praise Yahweh, the sun and moon praise Yahweh. Everything praise Yahweh. And the 4th is the time that Yahweh wanted his praise. Why you think the very first year start at the 4th? The very first month start at the 4th. The very first season start on the 4th. Because that's when Yahweh wanted his praise. And not only Psalms 113, watch what it says in Psalms 50. In Psalms 50, this is what Yahweh let us know in the very first verse. The mighty Elohim, even Yahweh, has spoken. And y'all hear Yahweh has spoken, right? And what did Yahweh have to say? And called the earth from the rising of the sun to the going down thereof. In other words, he called the whole earth, even though the earth was made on the 3rd day and the sun, moon, and stars was made on the 4th day, Yahweh still called out to the earth from the rising of the sun until the going down of the same. Why? Because that's when he began to allow the fruits to come forth. Because he put his luminaries in the sky that helped them to come forth. And it's called the sun, the moon, and the stars. And that's when Yahweh began to bring forth his count. And little do people know, people are always talking about, Yahweh, we don't know when we came into captivity. We don't know when we came into slavery. We don't know when this happened and that happened. Yahweh always knew when something happened. And Yahweh always started his count at the 4th. The count that's necessary for you to understand the consistency, the truth of Yahweh. The 4th is a sign of our beginning. I know it's the 4th, but it's still the sign of our beginning. And I'm going to show you that throughout all the scriptures. And watch this. Watch this in the book of Genesis, the 49th chapter. Sun, moon, stars on the 4th day. First season, first year, first month, all on the 4th day. Why? Because that's when Yahweh started his count. You start yours according to the moon. You start yours according to the sun. You start yours according to whatever you want to start it. But Yahweh started on the 4th. This is when he made his lights. But not just his lights. That ain't the only thing started on the 4th. Watch what this says in the book of Genesis 49. So you can understand the relationship between the 4th and Yahweh's first. Here it is. In January, that's the beginning of their year. But ours don't start until their 4th month, which they call April or spring. Because their 4th is our first. And why? Because that's Yahweh's first. Yahweh's first is his 4th. Well, let me show you so you can understand what I'm saying. In the book of Genesis 49 and 8, Yehudah, you are he whom your brothers shall what? Praise. Now, why would we praise Yehudah? What's so special about the tribe of Yehudah? Well, let me tell you what's so special about him. He's the 4th tribe. And did not Yahweh say the 4th is for his praise? No wonder we praising Yehudah. And watch what it says. Your hand shall be in the neck of your enemies. Your father's children shall bow down before you. Yehudah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you are gone up. He stooped down. He couched as a lion, as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Yehudah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be. And yes, the gathering of the people is going to be to Yehudah. Why? Because that's Yahweh's praise. They represent Yahweh's praise. And why is that? Because they the 4th tribe. They in the 4th position. And when you represent the 4th, you can do nothing but represent his praise. And just to show you the 4th tribe is really his first. Watch this in the book of Zechariah, the 12th chapter. In the book of Zechariah, the 12th chapter, and watch what it says. And what are we talking about? The judgment of 20. And I know we ain't got the 20 yet, but you're going to understand 20 once you understand this. And if you don't understand this, you'll never get to 20. But I got to show you this first. I got to show you how Yahweh began his count. Just like in Genesis, the 1st chapter, on the 4th day, that's when Yahweh made the sun, moon, and stars. That's when Yahweh said, this is your first season, your first month, your first year. This is the sign of the first, even though it was the 4th day. That's why Yahweh said in the book of Leviticus, the 19th chapter, our first fruits were bought in the 4th year. And you couldn't even eat it until the 5th year. Yahweh said, Yehudah, your brother shall praise you. And why? Because you are the 4th tribe. And here it is. Yahweh said, from the rising of the sun to the going down of the same. Now, why when the sun rise? Because that happened on the 4th day. It happens every day now. But I'm saying the beginning, the start of it, the very first time that happened was on the 4th day. And that 4th day was our first year. That's when Yahweh count. That's how Yahweh count. Watch this in Zechariah, the 12th chapter, the 7th verse. Yahweh, and our people should understand this, Yahweh also shall save the tents of Yehudah first. Now, why would Yahweh, we got 12 tribes. Now, why would Yahweh say Yehuda first? Did not tell you that the fourth really represents the first? That the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Yehuda. And why? Because Yehuda is first. So therefore, Yahweh is going to save them first. And why are they first? Because they are the fourth tribe. They the tribe that represents Yahweh's praise. Now, how do I know they represent Yahweh's praise? Did not Yahweh say in Genesis 49:8 that it is Yehuda that your brothers shall praise? That's not difficult to understand. The fourth is our first. And why? Because that's how Yahweh see it. That's how Yahweh desire it. And here it is, our brothers and sisters, they don't know judgment because they don't know time. And you got to learn time. Furthermore, still dealing with the fourth being our first. And let me tell y'all, captivity is no different whatsoever. Watch this when our people went into Babylon. And you'll read about the prophecy of our people going into Babylon in the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah 25. And I want you to turn there so you can understand the fourth really is our first. Watch this. And it's a sign of the first. In the book of Jeremiah 25. And let's see if you can understand this. The very first verse. The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Yehuda in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Yehuda. That was the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. In other words, our people, they was in Babylon 70 years. This began the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar. But what year do you think it was our time? It was the 4th year of Jehoiakim. In other words, it was the 4th year of our Sabbath of years. Why? Because that's the relationship Yahweh wants. This is how he keep everything in order, even in captivity, because their first will be our fourth. Just like their beginning of the year, their first month of the year is really our first and ain't to their fourth. Why? Because that's how Yahweh have it. Watch what it says. Second verse. The which Jeremiah the prophet spoke to all the people of Yehuda and to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, from the 13th year of Josiah the son of Amon, king of Yehuda, even unto this day, that is the 23rd year, the word of Yahweh has come to me, and I have spoken to you, rising early, speaking, but you have not listened. And Yahweh has sent to you all his servants the prophets, rising early, sending them, but you have not listened, nor inclined your ear to hear. They said, turn you again now, everyone from his evil way, as we do today, and from the evil of your doings, and dwell in the land that Yahweh has given to you unto your fathers forever and ever. And go not after the idols to serve them and to worship them, and provoke me not to anger with the work of your hands, and I will do you no hurt. Yet you have not listened to me, says Yahweh. that you might provoke me to anger with the works of your hands to your own hurt. Therefore, thus says Yahweh of hosts, because you have not heard my words, behold, now watch what it says. I will send and take all the families of the north, says Yahweh, and Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, my servant, and will bring them against this land, and against the inhabitants thereof, and against all these nations round about, and will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment, a hissing, and a perpetual desolations. Moreover, I will take from them the voice of joy, the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom, the voice of the bride, the sound of the millstones, and the light of the candle. And this whole land shall be a desolation and an astonishment. And these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years. And when did that start? The first year of King Nebuchadnezzar. When did that begin? The 4th year of our kings. And why? Because that's when Yahweh, the 4th is a sign of the first. The first what? The first year, the first season, the first month, the first days of a month, the first days of a year, the first months of a year. That's what it's a sign of. And it shall come to pass when 70 years are accomplished. And when was that? Well, if it started on the 4th, when you think it's going to end? On the 4th. And watch what it says. That I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, says Yahweh, for their iniquity and the land of the Chaldeans, and will make it a perpetual desolation. And I will bring upon that land all my words which I pronounced against it, even all that is written in this book, which Jeremiah has prophesied against all nations. So here it is. Even our 70-year captivity in Babylon started on the 4th. The 4th what? The 4th year. And whether it's the 4th year, the 4th day, the 4th time, it don't matter. The 4th tribe, the 4th represents the beginning. It represents the first. It represents the sign of what Yahweh would do first. As he said with Yehuda, I shall save you first. Why? Because you are the 4th tribe. And not just the 70 years in Babylon. When do you think Yahweh started his count and our people went down in Egypt to sojourn there for 430 years? Not 400 years like our brothers want to make you to believe. No, they began to sojourn there in the 4th year, and they was there 430 years. And 430 years later, they came out of Egypt in the 1st year. Because 430 years from the 4th year will be the 1st year. All you have to do is count it as what was done. And watch this in the book of Genesis. Genesis 41. And what have we seen thus far? Because I haven't even gotten to the judgment of 20, and we're going to get there. First, I had to show you when everything began, you begin to count. You begin to number. And what are you numbering? I don't care what you're numbering. A lot of people want to know, well, how do you know when Yahweh started his count in captivity? Well, we just read in Babylon for 70 years. When did they start? The 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, but it was the 4th year of YAH'S Sabbaths of years. When we went into the land, when you think that was? When do you think Yahweh sign, season, days, and years start? Well, on the 4th day. Because that's when he made the sun, moon, and the stars. Because the fourth is the sign of the fourth. Or the fourth is the sign of the first. Genesis 41. Watch what it says. The very first verse. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years. Okay, at the end of 2 full years, you only got one thing. You're at the end. So now the only thing you can have is the third year, in which you do have the third year. That Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored cows and fat, and they fed in the meadow. And behold, 7 other cows came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and thin, and stood by the other cows upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and thin cows did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat cows. So Pharaoh awoke. In other words, he was dreaming. But watch what happens. And he slept and dreamed the second time. This is the same night. And behold, 7 ears of corn came up on one stalk, plump and good. And behold, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 plump and full ears. And Pharaoh woke, and behold, it was a dream. So Pharaoh dreamed this dream, but he was so astonished about this dream, he just wanted to know the truth of this dream. And he needed somebody to interpret this dream. And I'm going to skip down so you can get right to the meat of what this dream was all about. And you'll start reading it in the same chapter, the 25th verse. And this is what it says. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. Even though you had 2 dreams in that night, the dream is only one. And Elohim has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. And watch what he says. The 7 good cows are 7 years. And the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored cows that came up after them are 7 years. And the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken to Pharaoh. What Elohim is about to do, he shows to Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And there shall arise after them, after the 7 years of great plenty, 30th verse, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine. And all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt. And the famine shall consume the land. So here it is, 7 good years were passed. And when did these 7 years begin? Well, these 7 years began after 2 full years, at the end of 2 full years, which it started in the 3rd year. And so now if you have 7 complete years, starting at the 3rd year, you're going to be right back at the 3rd year. Because how Yahweh's Sabbaths of years work, the years start all over again. So you got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. You right back at 3, 7 years later. You right back at the 3rd year. But then Yahweh said, after the 7 years of plenty, you're going to have 7 years of famine. And that famine is going to wipe out the 7 great years of plenty. And let me show you how that was done. And this is when the children of Israel walked down into Egypt in Genesis 45. Here it is. 7 years of plenty. Nobody got to go nowhere. Nobody had to do nothing. All they got to do is eat and enjoy themselves because they had 7 years of plenty. Of course, Joseph knew better. Egypt knew better. For Yahweh said, told Pharaoh what he was about to do. And nobody knew but Egypt. They knew that following the 7 years of plenty, that 7 years of famine would come. The Israelites didn't know. Nobody knew but Egypt. And of course, who told Egypt this thing? Joseph. And watch what happens in Genesis 45. Starting at the very first verse. Then Joseph could not refrain himself before all them that stood by him, and he cried, cause every man to go out from me. And there stood no man with him, while Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud. And the Egyptians and the house of Pharaoh heard. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Does my father yet live? And his brothers could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. And Joseph said to his brother, come near to me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. Now therefore be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves, that you sold me here. For Elohim did send me before you to preserve life. And watch this 6th verse. For these 2 years has the famine been in the land, and yet there are 5 years in which there shall neither be plow nor harvest. And Elohim sent me before you to preserve you a posterity in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you that sent me here, but Elohim. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh, master of all his house, a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Haste you, and go up to my father and say to him, thus says your son Joseph, Elohim has made me master of all Egypt. Come down unto me, wait not. And you notice he said it was, now they in 7 years of plenty is over. And he said, these 2 years the famine have been in the land. And what years are those? Well, you had 7 years of plenty go past. Now you back at the 3rd year. So the 3rd year there's famine. The 4th year there's famine. And when are the people coming in? In that 2nd year. Because they got 5 more years to go. 7 years of famine. So in the 4th year, the children of Israel walked down into Egypt. And why? Because of the famine. And watch what it says in the 10th verse. And you shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near to me, you and your children, and your children's children, and your flocks, and your herds, and all that you have. And watch what he says. And there will I nourish you, for yet there are 5 years of famine. So the 3rd year there was famine. 4th year was famine, and the children of Israel went into Egypt. And they got 5 more years to go. Lest you and your household and all that you have come to poverty. And behold, your eyes see. The eyes of my brother Benjamin, that is my mouth, that speaks to you. And you shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and of all that you have seen. And you shall haste and bring down my father here. And that's when they walked into Egypt. The 2nd year of the famine, which was the 4th year of Yahweh's Sabbaths of years. Just like in Babylon, they went in the 4th year. In Egypt, 430 years there, they went in the 4th year. Just like on the 4th day, Yah started his signs, seasons, days, and years. In other words, that's when Yahweh started his count. And when did Yahweh start his count in Egypt? In the 4th year. When did Yahweh start his count in Babylon? The 4th year. When did we first bring our fruits to Yahweh? in the 4th year. When did Yahweh, or what tribe would Yahweh use to save first? The 4th tribe. Now can't you see what Yahweh would use as a sign of the first? Yes, the 4th. The 4th. And not only in Egypt, you're going to see this same sign Yahweh used everywhere. Everywhere. Now I told you this is the judgment of 20. And why? I told our people and gave them the 7 most important numbers in the scriptures. The very first one was 7 because it represents Yahweh's word. The 7th day is the only day that Yahweh said you can't even speak your own words. The words he wants you to speak is his word. The second most important number is 10. And why? Because 10, Yahweh said the 10th is holy. And he said holy and reverend is his name. And he said my people are called by my name. And what is his name? The Holy One of Israel. The third most important number is 12. And why? Because Yahweh said that his people, the 12 tribes of Israel, he said, Israel is my glory. And we're going to show you how 12 represents Yahweh's glory. Why you think Yahweh told the children of Israel to make garments for glory and beauty? And he told the people to put 12 stones and make a breastplate and put 12 stones on the chest, on the heart of Aaron for glory and beauty, represented by the 12 tribes of Israel. He said put 6 on this, on the left arm, put 6 on the right arm, stones with the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. Why? Because they represent his glory. Why do you think there's 12 months in a year? Because it represents his glory. And who is his glory? Israel. And who is Israel? The 12 sons of Jacob. But the 4th number that will represent his praise is 20. And why is it 20? Well, little do people know the reason why Yahweh have this 20 as his praise, because at the age of 20, little do people know, and let me show you this. Go to the book of Numbers, the 1st chapter. Numbers, the 1st chapter. The judgment of 20. That's what we're talking about. And you can't know the judgment of 20 without knowing and understanding what Yahweh will use first, and how Yahweh will count from the first. But your first is not Yahweh first. Yahweh first is the 4th. Why you think his sign, season, days, and years started on the 4th? That's scripture. Why you think in the 4th year, now you can praise Yah with your fruits? Not the 1st year, not the 2nd year, not the 3rd year, but the 4th year. Because that's Yahweh's first. Why you think Yehuda will be saved first? Because they the 4th. Why do you think the 70 years of Babylon started in the first year of King Nebuchadnezzar, but yet the 4th year of Jehoiakim, king of Yehuda? And Yahweh didn't start no count with the children of Israel on the 4th. He did it with Yehuda. And why Yehuda? Because they the 4th. They the 4th tribe. And why did Yahweh say, from the rising of the sun and to the going down of the same, Yah's name is to be praised? Yes, because it was made, designed, created on the 4th day. And watch what Yahweh say in Numbers, the 1st chapter. Starting at the very first verse. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tabernacle of the congregation, on the 1st day of the 2nd month, in the 2nd year, after they had come out of the land of Egypt, saying, take you the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel, after their families, by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their heads, from 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel, and Aaron shall number them by their armies. And with you there shall be a man of every tribe, every one head of the house of his fathers. And why 20? Why did Yahweh desire and think to begin to number the heads of our fathers, the children of Israel, from 20 years old and above? Because at 20, according to the scriptures, this is the time where a man became a man, such that he's able to go to war. And Yahweh didn't have no kids going to war. You had to be a man. And when did you become a man according to the scriptures? 20. That's when you became responsible. And not only that's when you became responsible, that's when you became responsible for your own sins at the age of 20. And let me show you this in the book of Joshua, the 5th chapter. Since we're talking about the first, this when a man first became a man. Not at 18 and 16. This country and these heathens got people fighting wars at 16 and 17 years of age. Yahweh would never do nothing like that unless he inspired one to do that like he did David. But we didn't even number a man to go to war until he was 20. And watch what it says in the book of Joshua, the 5th chapter. And you're going to understand. And what greater praise can you give Yahweh to fight the battles of Yahweh? Yahweh, see, our armies, the children of Israel, we didn't fight our own battles. We fought the battles of Yahweh. We went to war at the mouth of Yahweh. He told us when to fight and when not to fight. And what age was that? 20. Watch what the Creator says in the book of Joshua, the 5th chapter, the 3rd verse. And Joshua made him sharp knives and circumcised the children of Israel at the heel of the foreskins. And this is the cause why Joshua did circumcise all the people that came out of Egypt that were males, even all the men of war died in the wilderness by the way, after they came out of Egypt. And why did all the men of war die in the wilderness? And what were the men of war? All those that was 20 years old and above. In other words, everybody that was younger than 20, except Joshua and Caleb. They all died in the wilderness. And why? Because Yahweh said that generation had rejected him, had sinned against him. So he said, I'm going to allow your children to go into the land. And if you was younger than 20, you went in the land. But if you was 20 years old and above, you died in the wilderness. Why? Because at the age of 20, that's when Yahweh held you responsible for your own sins. And all the people that came out were circumcised. But all the people that were born in the wilderness by the way as they came forth out of Egypt, them, they had not circumcised. For the children of Israel walked 40 years in the wilderness till all the people that were men of war, 20 years old and above, which came out of Egypt, were consumed. They were destroyed. And why were they destroyed? Because they obeyed not the voice of Yahweh. In other words, they were all responsible for their own sins, except for Joshua and Caleb, to whom Yahweh swore that he would not show them the land, which Yahweh swore to his fathers, to their fathers, that he would not give us a land that flows with milk and honey, and their children, whom he raised up in their stead, them Joshua circumcised, for they were uncircumcised, because they had not circumcised them by the way. So 20 not only was the age that now you can begin fighting for your liberty, fighting the battles of Yahweh, but it was also the age of responsibility. In other words, that's the age where now you can praise Yahweh. And how did you do it? Well, let me show you the law in the book of Deuteronomy, the 16th chapter, so you can see how our males, how our men praise the mighty Yah. In the book of Deuteronomy 16, the 16th verse, watch what it says. 3 times in a year shall all your males appear before Yahweh your Elohim in a place which he shall choose. All your males, what males? All the males that's responsible. How do you know that? Because watch what they have to do. In the Feast of Tabernacles or the Feast of Unleavened Bread, yeah, all the males supposed to be there. In the Feast of Weeks, all the males are to be there. And in the Feast of Tabernacles, all the males must be there. For what? And they shall not appear before Yahweh empty. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of Yahweh, your Elohim, which he has given you. And Yahweh wasn't dealing with no children. He wasn't dealing with no kids. He was dealing with men that now was responsible for their own sins. Men that can work and make money. Now they can give back to the one who gave to them. And that was Yahweh. So he said, I want all the males to come up. But the males that was responsible. And so in this 4th year of praise, who do you think came up? Yes, those that was 20 years old and above. Why do you think 20 is in the place of 4? Show you how beautiful 20 is and how responsible you must be at that age. Just show you something. Watch this. in the book of Psalms 90. Turn there. So even though the fourth is the sign of the first, well, 20, that's when you first become a man. That's when you first can begin to fight the battles of Yahweh. That's when you first can bring an offering to Yah, your Elohim, what he has blessed you with. He said, every man shall give what he's able to give. But watch this in the book of Psalms 90. In the 10th verse. Let's start at the 9th verse. For all our days are passed away in your wrath. We spend our years as a tale that is told. The days of our years are 80 years and 10. What is 80? A score is 20. 80 is 60. And 10, that's 70 years. But watch the very next verse. And if by reason of strength, because it takes a lot of strength, they shall be 80 years. This is what Yahweh characterized. Now you in the years of your strength. Now you in the years of your power. And why is it 80? What do 4 represents? Yahweh praise. And what is a score? 20. So what is 80? 80 years. Yet is their strength, labor, and sorrow, for it is soon cut off, and we fly away. In other words, 20 is the beginning, the first of when a man become a man. But when he began 80, now you in the powers of your strength. Because now you really can praise Yah. The 4th represents praise. And 420s represents strength. And not only it represents strength in your age, even our fathers who were strong, it represented their strength. Watch this in the book of Genesis 16. Show you when Abraham first had his child. In the book of Genesis 16. The judgment of 20. Now we're getting right into the heart of what 20 represents. It's the age of a man. It's when a man become a man. It's when a man can fight the battles of Yahweh. It's when a man can bring an offering to Yahweh and just give what he's able to give. But it's also the 4th most important number. In other words, that's when Yahweh start to count. Why do you think Yahweh say begin to number them from 20 years old and above? Why? Because now at that age you can give me an offering. You can fight my battles. You can give what you're able to. In Genesis the 16th chapter, because this is when Yahweh started his count at the 4th. Watch this, Genesis 16. And I'm going to read 15 and 16 verse. Genesis 16. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bore, Ishmael. And watch what it says in the 16th verse. Genesis 16 and 16. And Abram's was 80. And what did we say 80 was? 80. 420s. Because that's what the score is, 20. 80 and 6 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. And here it is. Didn't it say by reason of strength, you fourscore? And this man was very strong. And this is when he had his first child. And of course, going into Genesis 17:1, watch this. And when Abram was 99 years old and 9, Yahweh appeared to Abram and said to him, I am the Almighty, I'm El Shaddai. Walk before me and be thou perfect. And if you know this story, because we don't have time to get into the whole story, Yahweh ended up having Isaac when he was 100 years old. And what's 100 years old? 50. So not only he had Ishmael at 66 years, but he ended up having Isaac, who the covenant was through when he was 50 years old. And what is 50? 520s. He was a young man at 20, became a man at 20, and now 520s later, he having the covenant child. This is the judgment of 20. In other words, 20 represents when a man first become a man. It also represents when Yahweh will begin to number. He began to number us at the age of 20, because 20 was at the fourth, when we able to bring Yahweh a gift. Why do you think he said, all males shall appear before me in the feast of unleavened bread, in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacle, and they shall not appear before me empty? And why? Because you're a man now. Now bring me something. Because I done bless your hands. Now bring me something back. Show me how much I've blessed you. And Abraham did. Not only Abraham did, in Genesis 16, watch what Moses would do in Exodus 7. Turn there. Abram's first child was when he was 80 years old, 86 to be exact. And what do 80 represent? 420s. In other words, the time you praise Yah, being a man, 420s. Exodus 7. And what happened here? In the book of Exodus 7, and what you really should be learning from this is when Yahweh will start his count, when Yahweh will begin to number. Watch what it says in the book of Exodus 7. The very first verse. And Yahweh said to Moshe, see, I've made you a Elohim to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your prophet. You shall speak all that I command you. And Aaron your brother shall speak to Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of this land. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. But Pharaoh shall not listen to you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt, bring forth my armies, and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments. And the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahweh, when I stretch forth my hand upon Egypt, and bring out the children of Israel from among them. And Moshe and Aaron did as Yahweh commanded them, so did they. Now watch the 7th verse. And Moshe was 80 years old. When is that? Yes, 420s. He was 80. Didn't it say by reason of strength? Moses was strong now. He can praise Yah now. Why? Because he was 80 years old, and he was prepared, and he was ready to go before Yahweh to fight Yahweh battles. And Aaron, fourscore and 3 years old when they spoke to Pharaoh. And of course, that was saying Aaron was 83. Now they ready. Now they can fight. Why? Because of reason of strength. Because this is the judgment of 20. Just when you become a man. But then when you become fourscore, oh, now you're a real strong man now. Because that's when Yahweh began to number his servants. And let me show you another scripture so you can understand where all this is going, where all this is leading to in the book of Joshua, the 14th chapter. We've been talking about how the fourth is the first. And 20 is right at the fourth. And why? Because at the age of 20, that's when a man can begin fighting the battles of Yahweh. But I don't want you to just think of 20 years old, because it's not. The 20 in of itself represents something great to Yahweh. Watch this in the book of Joshua, the 14th chapter. In the book of Joshua 14. The first verse. And these are the countries which the children of Israel inherited in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest, Joshua the son of Nun, the heads of the fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel, distributed for inheritance to them. By lot was their inheritance, as Yahweh commanded by the hand of Moshe, for the 9 tribes and for the half tribe. And Moshe had given the inheritance of 2 tribes and a half tribe on the other side of Jordan. But to the Levites he gave no inheritance among them. For the children of Joseph were 2 tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim. Therefore they gave no part to the Levites in the land, except cities to dwell in, with their suburbs for their cattle and for their substance. As Yahweh commanded Moshe, so that the children of Israel did, and they divided the land. Then the children of Yehudah, because this has all been about Yehudah. In Babylon, Yehudah. In Egypt, Yehudah. Why? The 4th year. And now, here again, Yehudah. Watch this. Then the children of Yehudah came to Joshua in Gilgal. And Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said to him, and why Caleb? Because he was a Yehudahite. You know the thing that Yahweh said to Moshe, the man of Elohim, concerning me and you in Kadesh Barnea. 40 years old was I when Moshe, the servant of Yahweh, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land. I was just 40 years old. And I brought him word again, as it were in my heart. Nevertheless, my brethren that went up with me made the heart of the people melt. But I wholly followed Yahweh my Elohim. And Moshe swore on that day, saying, surely the land whereon your feet have trodden shall be your inheritance, and your children's forever, because you have wholly followed Yahweh by Elohim. And now, behold, Yahweh has kept me alive as he said. And watch this. And these 45 years, now there's 45 years later, which means what? Now he's 85 years. And what's 85 years? 80 years. That's what 85 years is. Watch what it says. And now behold, Yahweh has kept me alive as he said, these 45 years, even since Yahweh spoken this word to Moshe, while the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness. And now, lo, I am this day 65 years old. As yet, and watch, this is how you know what 80 is. As yet I am as strong this day as I was in the day that Moshe sent me. As my strength was then, even so is my strength now, for war, both to go out and to come in. Now therefore give me this mountain, whereof Yahweh spoke in that day. For you heard in that day how the Anakims were there, and that the cities was great and fenced. If so be Yahweh will be with me, then I shall be able to drive them out, as Yahweh said. And Joshua blessed him, and gave to Caleb the son of Jephunneh Hebron for an inheritance. And Hebron therefore became the inheritance of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, unto this day, because that he wholly followed Yahweh, Elohim of Israel. And the name of Hebron before was Kirjath-Arba, which Arba was a great man among the Anakims, and the land had rest from war. In other words, 85 years later, or 45 years after they came into the land, he was 40 years old in the wilderness. 45 years later, he became 85 years, 85 years old. He established the land of Yehudah. And let me tell you, 85 years later, what year that was? It was the 4th year of Yahweh's Sabbath of years. That's when Yehudah established the land of Yehudah in the very year that they represented, the 4th year. And once you begin to learn how to count, you will see exactly what I'm telling you is the truth. And not only that, to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, watch this in the book of 1 Kings, the 6th chapter. And as you can see, 80. What's 80? 420s. Why 4? We know what 4 represents. It represents Yahweh's praise. But what do 20 represents? When you become a man and get back to Yahweh. And watch this. In the book of 1 Kings, the 6th chapter, the very first verse. And it came to pass in the 480th year after the children of Israel come out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziph, which is the 2nd month that he began to build the house of Yahweh. In 480 years after they came out of Egypt is the 4th year. And you know how many 20s is that? 24. 20 years is 400 years. So you know 480 years had to be 4 more years later. 420 years later. 20, 40, 60, 80. 24 20s. Because 20 is the number that will represent Yahweh's praise in as far as man. 480 years later, it was the 4th year. Now, why is that so relevant? Is that just some keen knowledge, some wisdom that I just wanted you to know? No. I'm trying to teach you how to count. I'm trying to teach you how to number your days. I'm trying to teach you how to number your years. Do you realize, and most people don't, that in 1619, the first recorded slave ship in this country that brought slaves to this country, guess how many slaves was on that ship according to the historical records? And all you got to do is Google this and look it up for yourself. The first slaves that they brought to this town was 20 slaves. Why 20? Haven't we been telling you what 20 represents? All you got to do is Google it, and the first slave ship had 20 slaves. And what was the date that they brought these 20 slaves? Yes, August the 20th. And why August the 20th? All you got to do is Google it and make me a lie. And show me that I'm lying to you. But you can't, because I know that I'm not. And Yahweh don't lie, because this was a sign. And so the first year, these 20 slaves was in what we know of, the New World. On August 20th, the date of that first year was 1620. See, the beginning of that time was 1619. But the end of that first year was 1620. That made one complete year. And 400 years from that time is 2020. Now, why 2020? Then we tell you this is when a man can bring an offering to Yahweh. And did not Yahweh say our enemies was going to bring him an offering? And let me show you the offering they're going to bring. And you'll find this in the book of Isaiah, Isaiah 66. So you can see with your own eyes the offering that they're going to bring to Yahweh. And I may add, 2020 is how many years? 20 times 20 is 400. My goodness. Who can get that wrong? And 20 plus 20 is Yahweh's judgment. That's 40. And who can get that wrong? And did not Yahweh said he was going to judge that nation? And what's the offering that Yahweh said your enemies was going to bring to him? And when do you bring an offering to Yahweh? Yes, at 20. Whether it's August 20, 2020, 20 men, it don't matter. It's 20. And I may add, since our brothers and sisters, they don't even know what year they in, Yahweh Sabbath and year. And let me tell you what 2020 will be. Yahweh's fourth year, when you supposed to bring Yahweh your fruits. Isaiah 66, and watch what it says. '19th verse. 66 and 19. And I will set a sign among them, and I will send those that escaped of them to the nations, to Tarshish, to Pool, and Lud that draw the bow, to Tubal and Javan, to the isles afar off, that have not heard my fame, neither have they seen my glory. And they shall declare my glory among the Gentiles. And how they going to declare? Watch what it says. And they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto Yahweh out of all the nations, upon horses, and in chariots, and in litters, and upon mules, and upon swift beasts, to my holy Mount Jerusalem, says Yahweh, as the children of Israel bringing an offering in a clean vessel into the house of Yahweh. And I will also take of them for priests and for Levites, says Yahweh. And why? Because this will be the year of his praise. Did not Yahweh said he was going to deliver us from the four corners of the earth? There go that four again. Did not Yahweh say he was going to deliver us from under the hand of the fourth beast? There go that four again. Under the fourth kingdom? There go that four again. Because that's when Yahweh, that's when he count. That's when he began to number his seasons, his days, his years. And that's when Yahweh has desired and elected the fourth to be his sign. And this is why you will number from the fourth. Whether it be Caleb establishing the land of Yehudah, whether it be a man bringing his offering unto Yahweh, whether you bringing your first fruits in the fourth year, whether you numbering your days on the fourth day, your sign, season, days, and years, and whether by strength you make it to 80 years, and you begin to prophesy like Moses. You have a child like Abram, and you build the temple like Solomon in the fourth year, 480 years after we came out of Egypt. So we know when Yahweh started his count. It was at the fourth. And make no mistake about it, brothers and sisters. We're in the second year now. The 10th month of our second year. The 5th day of that month. Because we know how to number our days, our years, our months, our seasons. And in 2020 will be the 4th year. Yahweh's judgment. Yahweh's years. And if you can't see it, it's only because you don't have 2020 vision. But we're going to pray for that vision. So until tomorrow, because we're still going to be dealing with the judgment of Yahweh. Tonight, it was the judgment of 20. And then we will see what Yahweh will have us do tomorrow. Until then, Yahweh love you, and so do I. Shalom.